Chill. You already know it's your boy Joe back at it again, CodingPhase.com. Your boy's back, and I done did it again one more time. This is going to be epic. We got a huge amount of developers in this live stream, man, and this is going to be crazy. Okay, we got a lot of people in here. We got Jeremiah Peoples, we got Bobby Davis, we got Dave Kimura, we got Tren Black, we got Chris Sean, we got Danny Thompson, we got Chau Codes, and then we're gonna get a couple of surprise guesses later on. Okay, so you already know, man. Let's get started. Let's bring everybody in. Everybody introduce yourself.
Everyone at the same time.
Somebody introduce yourself. Go. You can start off, Jeremiah. Let people know who you is.
All right. What's up? My name is Jeremiah Peoples. I'm a self-taught software engineer for the Air Force, and I'm just new into this YouTube thing, so I'm happy to be here.
Hey, I'm Bobby from Foundry. We're a boot camp, and we teach people to code, trying to find people jobs. So that's what we do each and every day.
I'm David Kimura. I run Drift and Ruby, doing Ruby on Rails screencasts. Been doing it for about 5 years now, and just love the community.
Cool.
Hey guys, Chau Codes here. I'm a self-taught dev for about a year now, making the switch from IT support over to looking for my first role as a web developer. So yeah, there's that.
I'm Danny Thompson. I am a fry cook turned developer. I taught myself how to code, learn. I've helped over 100 people land their first jobs in tech, and I'm trying to bring more positive impact to communities that need it the most.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm Asian, and I like to code.
Good.
I'm Tren Black. Joe put me as a Fullstack developer, but you probably know me from talking trash on the internet. So.
Oh, you're that kid. Oh, shoot. Now I know who you are.
Yeah. What's up, dude?
Holy crap.
Yeah, man, we got a lot of people. Everybody that's in here is super talented. That's a reason why I brought them in. Everybody's an expert in their own ways, and at the same time, I feel like they could bring in a different perspective, especially with what we're about to do here, right? We're just going to talk about code. We're going to talk about development, right? We're going to keep it simple. I mean, we're going to start with the first thing. And this was a question that people always ask me here on the community, and they sent it again last night through DMs. They're like, Joe, what was one project that you really had a challenge? And you was like, man, this was kind of difficult, right? You don't have to go into super detail, but maybe something that you felt like it was difficult for you in the beginning. So if Jeremiah, you want to start it, go ahead. Your mic is off real quick.
Yeah, for sure. I guess I have to say when I stopped working for Air Force a little bit and then I went to go work for Space Force, I was only comfortable with front-end web technologies at that point, and then the Space Force had me doing full stack. So learning like all the different technologies on the job was definitely difficult, but being hands-on and being able to apply it after I learned it was definitely helpful. But that was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do and learn as a dev.
Yeah, that's that, man. Go ahead, Chris Sean.
What the? Hold on.
Go ahead. I'm just gonna throw it. I'm gonna start throwing the ball at everybody. What was a difficult project? Yeah, a difficult project.
Man, I think the most difficult project for me was when I had to build a. Oh dang, that's a lot. Holy, dang man, why'd you have to throw this at me, bro? I think when I built my first full end website for entrepreneur.com. We were building a third-party app, kind of like social media. It's Entrepreneur Insider. If you want to check it out, I don't work for them anymore, but don't check it out. Never mind. But yeah, it was when I built that because that's when I was forced to do backend. I absolutely hate doing backend development, man. I love front end. I love JavaScript. But yeah, that was the most difficult thing because I'm not a backend developer. But they threw me in there, got it done, but I got yelled at a lot at the same time too.
How about you, Danny? What was something that was difficult for you?
It's not even a work project. My mind was just racing because I was like, okay, he's just throwing at anybody, so I don't have time to really prepare an answer. But I remember I was a part of this organization. I was on the committee called GiveCamp Memphis. And what we do is basically it's like a weekend hackathon, but it's a hackathon for good where the goal is to help out as many nonprofits as possible, make their websites, make software for their businesses, whatever it may be. And it's a good time, like all the developers in the area just kind of hang out. I was jumping around in many groups. I was wearing many hats, and there was one group that I was helping was a women advocacy group. And so one thing that they needed on their project was they needed a button on their website that if someone presses that button, it will redirect them to the weather.com website. It'll erase their history. It's like a whole big thing. And I was like, look, like this is a weekend like hackathon. Like what you're talking about, like I this is a big ordeal. Why do you even need something this big? Like what are you trying to do with this? And like if a woman is being abused and beaten and she's looking for help and the abuser finds out she's looking for help, do you think he's going to smile or do you think he's going to deal with that problem? And I was like, damn, like that's so heavy. And we went 2 days straight trying to figure that out. And we ended up solving it by the end of those 2 days. And we added that functionality to the website. It would erase their history, redirect them to weather.com for their location, and they were safe. So that's probably like one of the hardest things that I ever had to do in such a short amount of time.
Nice. How about you, Dave?
So mine is less tech related, but more process driven related. So a long time ago, we had a .NET shop, and I was introducing Ruby on Rails into that mix. So if you've ever tried to do that, it's not an easy job. And essentially what ended up happening was through a lot of processes, procedures, aka red tape, I was very restricted and limited to what I could do. They kept trying to push me to deploy to a Windows server instead of a Linux environment. And that just doesn't really work too well if you come from the Rails world. And keep in mind, this was all pre-WSL2 days. So essentially, they never heard of Amazon S3 for file uploads. They wanted me to store everything locally or in the database, which if you've ever tried to store any kind of base64 large images or anything in the database, it's just not scalable, not a good idea. And so I think the hardest part was me trying to play the political game with them to explain, here's the best practices, here's why we should do it like this, and just keep getting roadblock every step of the way because we didn't have contracts with Amazon. We didn't have contracts with Azure. What is this whole cloud services? No, we want to keep everything locally. So dealing with a lot of those kind of battles really limited how powerful of an application I could make, because we immediately ran into scalability issues. We ran into a lot of technical debt that we were having to essentially create to get around all of these hoops and red tape that they put in place. So essentially, red tape is good. It's for checks and balances. It keeps us safe. It keeps us accountable, and it can really help us out if it serves a purpose. But red tape, just because it's red tape, is horrible. So if you were stifling, if you were hindering productivity, if you're hindering innovation because of red tape, which is not providing any kind of value, then you need to relook at your policies and to see, why was this even put here in the first place? And is it an issue today?
Yeah. Nice.
Dang, that was back in the day.
Yeah.
Oh shoot.
Yeah, nah, definitely. How about you, Trent?
Okay, so it seems like mostly we're talking about like projects in like at our jobs or employment.
Projects or jobs or projects in school or projects that you built personally. You know, I've seen you create a lot of projects that you be like,
yeah,
bro.
no, I'm always making stuff, but so I have like no employment history. I have an internship now, but it hasn't started yet. But so I'll just talk about like this. So this video I made maybe like a few months ago, it was like I made a multiplayer game. So I made this website with WebSockets, and the point of it is one person draws and everyone else guesses. But so that was Fullstack, and I had to do the back end and the front end. But I really cheaped out in hosting it. I wanted to host it for free, and then what happened was I invited a bunch of people to play the game, and the game wouldn't really work all the time. And I don't think it was my code, or at least I don't think it was. Maybe it was. I don't know actually. But I think it's because I paid nothing for hosting it. So for a multiplayer game, you can't really host that for free. And then the people that were testing it were also like other like developers like Ben Awad and stuff. And they just started injecting JavaScript into my site and just showing me how like not secure it is. And that was embarrassing. They did that in front of everyone.
That's
so now everyone probably thinks I'm a chump. We made it. I never fixed any of the bugs either. I just left it up fully bugged out, fully ready to get crashed and hacked, I guess. But YOLO.
Yeah, no, man. Benoit is definitely a character. He's the guy that would do that. He's definitely the guy that would do that.
Right.
So how about you, Chau?
Yeah, so I think the hardest thing was, well, I'll preface it with this. I made the mistake early on in my journey was I kind of skipped through all the basics really quick because I just wanted to get to JavaScript. So I kind of just hushed over it, went straight to React. So like I learned later on that was a huge mistake. So I remember taking a course where we had to use React and Redux, and like Redux was just like this whole other monster that I've never ever messed with before. And I was streaming that project live, and it was my first time too messing with APIs. So I was trying to make this NBA stats app. Everyone was watching me live, and I'm just like, okay, guys, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing right now. Like, someone in the chat's got to help me with Redux. Like, this is, I don't understand it. And it, like, for a whole month, I was just live streaming every mistake until it finally like worked for the first time. And I caught that moment. So it was cool, but I think that whole month was just like the most frustrating thing I've ever been through in my life. So
yeah,
for those listening, don't do what I did. Don't do what I did.
Yeah, no, definitely Redux it gets annoying the first time because, you know, if you're not coming from a functional programming background, like there's like new concepts, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But definitely, I mean, for me, I would say the most difficult project that I worked on, I used to work for a company where they sell glasses, and my job was to be front-end developer initially, and then somehow they drove me into creating an application that calculates people's pupils and then place the glasses on their face. And I'm like, this is not what I do. Like, I do HTML, CSS. Like, do you guys like that? That's what I'm good at. I'm in web development. I don't want to be coming in here and calculating people's faces, and you know, like that's not what I do. But at the end, I got it done somehow, and I was like, holy shoot, man, I can't believe I even got that thing done. Of like, and it's pretty cool because pretty much every time that you go to any page, automatically it places the glasses on the person. So they upload their photo, they get to have like a preview of how the glasses looks on them. So it was pretty nice, but it was just like crazy, like super challenging. Like, that's not what I do, you know? But yeah, man. Now, another thing too that some people wanted to know was, you know, what was your first taste of like programming? How did you get introduced to this thing? What was your first, you know, introduction to this thing? If you want to start, Bobby, you can start it off.
Yeah, my first job as a programmer was working on an engine for like a big truck industry and read the sensors off of an engine in like 1992 with like Windows 3.11. It was like the hardest thing ever to do because like it wasn't the technology, it was everything. Like the internet there was no internet. It was just really difficult. So like those kind of things is trying to write those low level things very early on in the process was kind of like super difficult, but it was kind of fun though. We eventually got it working. Mack Truck, Volvo, all those guys would test these engines, and then we would write this code to like, you know, if they push the speedometer, does it go 55 or 80? Does the RPMs work correctly? All this kind of thing. So it was like super early. And now that company I've left, and then they blew up, which may make sense, I guess. So, I don't know. So,
yeah, no, it happens. Now, as far as like your first introduction, that was your first project that
that's
you built?
my first project, man. That was the first thing I ever
Dang.
did. Like, and we did it in Power Builder, and like you basically just jumped over the fence and to this thing, and you're like trying to figure this out. And I'm a lot like you guys too. Like, I went to school for software engineering, but I learned COBOL. And so when I came out of college in like, you know, 89 or 90, COBOL was going away, and suddenly this Windows thing was coming up. And that was my first job, was learning Power Builder on the fly with books, you know, just trying to read through the books on the toilet. I mean, like, that's just kind of what I did. So, like, you know.
That's so interesting. I think the government
they use
COBOL
stuff, but like,
yeah, they use old stuff that they should not use anymore. Oh, Jeremiah,
right, I would know.
Yeah, man. So how about you, Chau? Go ahead and tell us, like, you know, like, how did you get into this thing of learning how to code and, you know, becoming a developer? I mean, right now you're in the process of still getting hired, your first job. But what was the first thing that gave you that spark of like, damn, I got to do this thing?
Yeah, so I think like once I started actually committing to this thing, I'd always been exposed to code even when I was in like the 6th grade. I've always known about it, dabbled with it, and then just left it. But I think recently, like last year in September, I was in my IT support job, and I was just like, nah, I don't really think that this is what like I should be doing for the rest of my life. I don't want to be a help desk, like helping other people. I want to kind of build my own things. So I think on Instagram, and that's kind of where I got my start. I was looking up people, and you see the occasional setup photos, people with all their battle stations, you know, all laid out nicely. And one of them just happened to have code on it. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. There's this whole code thing that you could do. So I'm gonna look more into it. And then sure enough, like a month later, I'm learning code while I'm working IT at the same time. And then just from there, I kind of kept it rolling. And a year later, here we are. So that's kind of where it all started for me, was like noticing and just being aware that I'm not happy right now and I need to make a change. And code was that change.
Nice. How about you, Tren? What made you get into this thing?
Okay, I know everyone kind of hates kids that say this, but I started when I was like 12. So it's not like a lot of other people who've already had a career and then switch into it. So I guess I'm kind of privileged. I guess it was like easier for me to learn when I was young. But in my defense, I'd say from 12 to 17, I was a pretty useless human being. So I learned like 5 months of coding in those 5 years. But I started because so that's when my brother was first getting into code. And I don't know, I just want to be like my brother, I guess. And I started off with I was learning some C#, like how to make a to-do list with a SQL database, stuff I don't even use. Like I never use C# now, but that was cool. And then I really wanted to make like games on my phone, because this is back when everyone was playing phone games like Angry Birds, and I thought people were making millions, and I was like, this has to be me. I'm born for this. So I failed miserably at making any games ever. But I think around like 11th grade, 12th grade, I started becoming like less of a idiot and actually like creating things. And then I think from like 17 to 20, I took it like really seriously. So yeah, that's where I am now.
Nice. Now, well, we got your boy in here, your boy Quincy Larson. Shout out to him. What's good, bro? I think this is gonna be perfect for you. Okay. What made you get into this thing of developing and programming? What was like your first spark that got you into this thing, man?
Yeah, well, I can tell you. First of all, hey everybody, I'm Quincy. good to see. I know a lot of the people on the stream, so it's good to see you all. Yeah, I was working as a teacher and a school director, and I just wanted to make my school more efficient. So I just started going down like the Google rabbit hole, like learning how to use like scripts in Excel and basic scripts to automate my browser, so I could like click through immigration forms for students and take care of teachers' grade reports and things like that. So it was, for me, it was purely this pragmatic desire to be able to do my job more effectively.
Nice. That's crazy. So you was working as a teacher, and then you said, let me try to build something real quick for the school. Like, that's hot, man. You know, you never know when, you know, what's the thing that's going to spark somebody to get into this industry. So that's really cool, man. Now, how about you, Tren? Matter of fact, with Tren already went. Chris, how about you? What got you into this thing?
Yeah, I was living in my car. I was like struggling, living in California, making $30K a year. That's not enough in California, unfortunately, to survive anywhere. And yeah, I Googled something. I'm like, all right, I need to change my life. Saw a video on YouTube of Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, and all these really cool people, Chris Bosch, and I was following my heat at the time. And they said that you don't need to be smart to code. And I was really dumb, college dropout, don't know how I graduated high school. And I just Googled how to learn code. And I did not go to FreeCodeCamp or anything like that. I went to Treehouse, got my first job in 3 months, and that's it. I just got in. And you know what? Coding was the most satisfying thing ever, because when you build your, like, learning code at first was so boring, just learning the basic stuff. But when you build your first project and you push that site live, the first time you do that, man, it gets so addicting. And then at that point, that's why I gave up gaming for the last 3 to 4 years, was because, not now, I play video games like crazy. But I gave up gaming for 3 to 4 years because coding was like video games to me. It was so addicting, and I finally felt smart for once in my life.
Yeah, no, that's a great story, man. I think, we all start from somewhere. I mean, for me, I'll probably go and let you guys know, like, for me, it was just more like I started kind of like how Tren started like a long time ago, but I just never kept up with it because I thought in my head, I'm like, you have to go to like MIT or Harvard, or I'm like, I'm not going there, bro. Like coming where I come from, I'm like, I'm not gonna make it, bro. So then I just left it alone. I had built like a website with Dragon Ball Z back in the days, and that was my first website. And then fast forward, similar to Chau, I was doing programming and systems in school to become an IT worker. And when I was about to graduate, I met some dude like in a Starbucks, and I saw him just coding and like writing something on his computer, but I always saw him there. And I'm like, yo, you don't work, bro? Like, I mean, I understand me being at Starbucks at this time because I'm going to school and stuff like that, and this is like my lunch break. But I'm like, you don't work? And he's like, nah, I work from here, and I'm working on the go, and he's like, I built, phone applications for iOS, and then that blew my mind. I was like, man, I got to get into this. I got to get back into it, especially once he told me, he's like, yo, you don't even need a degree, because that was one of my biggest fears. I'm like, I just finished an associate's. Now I got to go back to school, change my whole degree into something else that's going to extend it 3 more years, etc. And I was like, okay, let me jump into this. And at the same time, it's just, for me, I was like, it was an escape to really be able to move forward and move on up in this world, and without having to start all over, so I really enjoy, coding, and that's how I got my little spark, but how about you, Dave? How you got into this thing?
So one time when I was in 8th grade, long time ago, I walked down to the market when I was living in Europe. And this is back when pre-internet days, when you wanted some new software, you bought a magazine that had a little floppy disk attached to it. So I had a Mac at the time. It was like this 8 megahertz, 4 meg of RAM piece of crap, but it was super awesome at the time. And so I bought this Macworld magazine. I think it was Macworld way back then. And it had a floppy disk attached to it with Chipmunk Basic. I had no idea what it was, but I was just intrigued by this big white screen that it gave me and that I could just type in. And so pretty soon I learned that, like, hey, I can actually create something, that doesn't look like absolute garbage. So that was really my first exposure to programming, was on Chipmunk Basic on a super awesome Mac at the time, but super crappy now. So that was before any kind of internet. So I had no guidance, no mentor. I just learned everything by trial and error. And so that kind of grew and grew over the years. And I landed my first job out of high school as an intern for this Microsoft company, or they created applications for other companies using the Microsoft stack. So back then, this was also pre.NET or anything. So we landed a contract where I had to go through and update a Paradox database over into a VB front end with a SQL backend.
Wow.
I had no idea what I was doing, but the Paradox syntax was close enough to BASIC that I was able to kind of pick it up, and VB Basic wasn't too far off either. So this is back in the VB6 days, which was super cool back then. So that was really my first exposure of working on, I think it was like a tier 3 level style programming.
Wow. Crazy. Early stages, man.
Yeah.
How about you, Jeremiah?
Ooh. I guess it was like early 2019. I was deployed in Iraq, and I was not liking the war, the fighting, the stuff like that. So I hopped on YouTube and I watched this video. This YouTuber called Chris Sean, and he apparently did it without like ever going to school, changed his life. So I'm like, maybe I can do this. So I like binged all of his videos for inspiration. Started learning like front end things, and then I got back to my home unit, and my commander took a ragtag team of developers and people who wanted to be developers, and allowed them like Quincy just to automate tasks that we were doing throughout our day. And so I've been on that team for about a little over a year now, and I've just been automating stuff and enjoying life thanks to this YouTuber called Chris Shaw.
I heard about that guy too. I heard he's really good looking.
He's all right. He's all right.
He's really awesome. Yeah, I heard about him too.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about him though. You know?
Yeah, man. Nah, Chris Shaw has definitely, inspired a lot of people out here, especially by sharing his life. That's one thing that I really appreciate what Chris Shaw does over here on YouTube, and it's the fact that, he shares his life as a young developer from the beginning. Like, I kind of wish I had the courage to do what Chris Shaw did, because to be honest with you, like, I've been on YouTube since like 2007, but I started learning how to code in 2011, but I never had the courage to get in front of a camera till 2016 and talk about code, because I'm like, I'm not going to be qualified. Well, there's going to be guys who have 10, 20 years in this, and they're going to say, you're a beginner, and this, and that. It's like Chris Shaw kind of went through all of that from the beginning. It's like, hey, I don't care. It's like, I just got hired like 3-6 months ago. This is my journey. And you've seen like the progression of like, hey, he only knows HTML, CSS, JavaScript, then jQuery, then React, then Vue.js, then now the PHP, Laravel. And like, you see that whole journey. So, it's really good to see somebody like Chris Shaw out here, doing some moves and sharing and that motivation to the people. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to my boy Chris. You get what I'm saying? That's why he here, man. But yeah, so who else is next? Danny, tell us how you got your little spark, man. I know you was frying some chicken. What's going on with that? Let me know.
So I'm, just to say, like, I pretty much everyone on this panel is a big source of inspiration to me besides Chau Codes. So I mean, I'm really humbled to be here around everybody, and I love Chau. I'm even like Tren. I'm a huge fan of his content. I found a bunch of his videos a while ago. Yeah, and it's surprising that maybe, but I'll be honest. For me, I'm the opposite of Tren, and I didn't learn anything about tech or coding until I hit the age of 30. I was literally, I worked in gas stations for over 10 years. I was working 80 plus hours a week. I was making just enough money to be broke. And I would literally look at my son and be like, this is the best that I can do. But I was lying to myself. I was lying to everybody. And I just didn't know how to get out of it. I come from extremely humble beginnings, and college was a luxury that wasn't afforded to me, unfortunately. And I just wanted to go, but it wasn't available. And at this time, at the age of 30, the reason why I got into tech was because of a rapper. This rapper invested several $1 million into a tech company. He's giving this interview. And of course, like, this blew my mind. I'm like, what is he doing, even doing that? And he said he's learning how to code. And I was like, what? Like, what? Obviously, he's not learning how to code to become like a developer or a software engineer or something. Like, why is he learning how to code? And for me, at that point in my life, I always thought, if you knew how to code, coding was strictly restricted for the rocket scientists and the PhDs of the world. This wasn't for average individuals. I didn't even know this was a space I was allowed to be into. And so he says the reason was profound. He says, why shouldn't I know how this machine that I touch 90% out of my day operates? Like, why is the extent of my limitations opening youtube.com and watching some cat videos? Like, why don't I know more? Like, I have a basic understanding of my body, right? Like, if I'm sick, I know either A, I need to go to a doctor, I'm not going to make it. Or B, I could ride this out, I'll drink some Robitussin, I'll be A-okay, right? Or if my car makes a weird sound, I'm like, oh, that's not normal, I need to take this to a specialist. So why don't I have the same understanding? Like, why don't I understand why my laptop costs $2,800 or why my smartphone costs $1,500? Like, why don't I know this? What's RAM? What's Snapdragon? It's all buzzwords until you put something behind it. So he started learning how to code, and so did I. And I got on FreeCodeCamp.org, and I just started learning. And I owe pretty much everything in my career to FreeCodeCamp. If anyone that asks me like where to start coding, I always say the exact same place, FreeCodeCamp. And the reason why I truly believe, no matter where you want to go into, education is a window to understanding. So if you spend just a month on FreeCodeCamp, you're going to have a basic understanding of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You can realize within that time frame, you're like, oh, I really like making the front end of a website. I like making these buttons. This is fun to me. Or you could realize, you know what? This really sucks. But I now have been playing with JavaScript. I'm like, oh, I really like the analytical side or the algorithms or trying to solve problems. Or you realize, both of these things really suck. Maybe I'm going to pivot to web dev, mobile dev. Like, you're going to find out within that first month what you want to do. And then the other thing with that honestly, if you go through that limited lesson, you have a basic understanding. When people even talk about what Python is, you can pick up on those little nuances to see if that's a route you want to go. And for me, that's exactly where everything started. I started literally on FreeCodeCamp, and from there I went to a meetup, and the meetup was the best experience of my life because I thought the world began and ended at JavaScript. And so I go into this meetup and I had a really bad application. It was mainly like HTML, CSS. It's like you enter the URL of an image and it returns the image with like some coloring on top. It's like a really, really bad filter. Like think like Instagram's like worst nightmare. That's what I made, right? Like the worst thing possible. And I walk in this meetup and I instantly realize that I don't know stuff. I don't know anything. I don't want us to get demonetized. So I don't know anything, right? And so as I walk in this meetup, instantly I realized like people are just kind of like saying like a foreign language to me. Like they're like, oh, well, Java, C#, and I don't know what any of this means, but now I'm hooked. Like there's this whole new breadth of knowledge that I've never been exposed to before. And so I go home and I just start studying it. And because I realized I was excluded from the conversation. And I said, I never want to be excluded again. So I go home and I start studying. I start learning about ES6 and JavaScript, and I go to that next meetup like, well, do you know how to do an error function? Do you know how to do this in ES6? And I go home and start learning more. I start learning about SQL. And I go, do you know what a SQL table is? Do you know how to do a SQL query? And I go home and start learning more. I start learning about Java. And I'm like, do you know what Spring Framework is? Do you know how to do this in Java? And now I'm included in this phenomenal community of developers that want to help as many people as they can. And because of that experience, honestly, meetups and finding people that were going through what I was going through was the backbone for me wanting to go forward. Because here's the thing, when I'd show my mom or my sister or my family like this like random quote generator, they're like, oh, that doesn't look that great. I'm like, yeah, but my skills are still limited and I'm still learning what a JSON is and how to do this. They don't appreciate that. But when you go to a meetup with other developers, like, oh, I know that probably took you like a week. Oh, I know that algorithm was really tough for you. That sense of community kept me on that track. And because of that, I owe everything to, I never wanted to start meetups. And now I lead one of the biggest communities in our group. I've helped so many people land their first jobs in tech. And it just, the joy of that keeps me going. And I hope that answered the question. That was a long response and I apologize. I don't want to cannibalize time.
Yeah, don't worry about it. All right. So something that's coming from the community here. What are your biggest regrets as a software developer? This was a question that and Kumar just asked. Anybody that wants to start it off, you could go ahead. Biggest regrets.
My biggest regret, I think, was one time our company got shut down in the late 90s. And I was so mad I threw the office keys off the 4-story parking garage and left.
Pissed. Yeah.
Dang.
I told him to go find them, but I was young and I didn't understand like companies close for reasons and it's not always in control of the company. But it was the first time in my life where like, you know, I didn't have a job or whatever. But the thing was I figured out like I knew how to code. So therefore I found a job. I got a recruiter. I was employed the next week, but that was my first struggle going through that. And I just remember chunking those keys off the top of that parking deck. I said, go find them, buddy. So I wish I hadn't. I saw that guy recently, and he still remembers that. So,
Dang.
30 years ago. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I've definitely been through some situations that I always regret. I'm like, damn, because I got a short temper. Like, I'm that type of dude that I'm like, I don't know. I just keep it too real. Sometimes it's like that show from Dave Chappelle, that sketch where he's like, when keeping it real goes wrong. Like I've had a lot of those moments, and so definitely I know what you mean. But I think for me, like my biggest regret was me staying at home learning to code for a whole year. Like, and that's because I felt like I needed to learn everything. Like I used to go to like Indeed.com and I think it was the other one, Monster Jobs or something like that, or some type of website for jobs. And I will see like literally 20 different listings of programming languages and skills that you need. So what I try to do, I say, okay, I'm going to take this job listing. I'm going to learn everything that's in there. Thinking like I need to learn every single language, right? I remember in that 1 year, I learned YUI, jQuery, Backbone. I also learned early stages of Angular. And when I went to the job interviews, they were like, oh, we use Angular here, or oh, we use Backbone here. And I'm like, what about this other stuff that you guys posted there? And they're like, no, we just put it just in case you do know that it could be easy to transfer to whatever framework we might use or whatever it was, right? Same thing happened to me with PHP and Ruby on Rails. So I saw the job listing, right? So my whole thing was that one job listing, and I learned everything that was in there, which made me really, prepare for job interviews and really skilled. But at the same time, I'm like, bro, I could have gotten a job at like 3 months. Like I could have, because the level that I was in when it came to HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and even with the frameworks that I already knew, I was ready to start working. But I was just like, man, I don't know enough. Somebody's gonna ask me something about a framework, and I'm not gonna be able to answer it. I'm not gonna be able to know what's going on. And that was my biggest regret. I still regret that till now because I started in 2011. I got hired in 2012, right? And I could have been like, hey, man, I've been doing this for 10 years already. You know what I mean? Like now it's like, okay, I only got like 9 years of like as a developer. But I always look back, I'm like, damn, I could have been working at 3 months. Why didn't I just start going? And it's also too, I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have like what people have now. Everybody that's watching this, you have great YouTubers and great developers that's on social media and tell you, hey man, this is how it is, Like back then there was a couple of blogs, but it wasn't as much as it is now, where people are just keeping it real and telling you like, hey, this is what you need to get the job. Just go into the interview. It's okay to fail. Like I thought that somebody kept track of like the the interview. So I'm like, man, I can't go to too many interviews because if I fail, they're probably gonna send it out to other companies, and somehow I'm like, I don't know. I was going crazy trying to get into the game, but that was my biggest regret. So how about you, Chris Sean? Biggest regret that you had?
Dang, I don't have many regrets because I tried everything. But I guess my biggest regret was thinking that I had to be the best developer out there to start a business. I wish I started my own business sooner. That's my biggest regret because at the end of the day, when you work at a company, it's true, you are just an employee. But it's also true that as a developer, you can get a job anywhere. Like I moved across the country here to Virginia or Tennessee, and 2 months later, after moving across the country, leaving my whole family behind, I quit my job. But it's because I knew that I can get another job, so I got a job offer 2 weeks later, right? At a big Silicon Valley that more than doubled my salary here. And like it's because you could get a job anywhere. But despite that fact, I do wish I started my own business sooner, because if you know code, you can do so many different things. There's so many different kind of companies you can build. So I'm now building my third company, and it's completely changing my life. I wish I started at least a year sooner. That's my biggest regret.
Yeah, no, that's something that I preach here all the time on CodingPhase. If you guys are new to the channel, you've never seen what we do here at CodingPhase. Like I'm constantly telling people like, hey, this is how you make money as a developer, independently, because I do believe that everybody should start working at a company, because there's so many things that you learn by being around other developers and seeing how companies work, from collaboration from the marketing team to the designers, to when it comes down to the project manager, to when it comes down to you, and how everything works, to really understand how to have a proper business. Sometimes you go to companies that are not good and you realize this is where it's wrong, and this is how I can improve my own company or do better. But that's like what we do here at CodingPhase. We always talk about you got to start your own business. You got to, try to create some side income for yourself, to create that freedom to be able to say, you know what, at some point, if I want to leave a company, I could leave. I'm not depending on something, for a paycheck, And one of the things that we've seen with this pandemic is like, hey, there's people that have lost their jobs, but the people that are the most comfortable were the ones that had some type of side income, where if you lost your job, you still got an extra $5,000-$10,000 coming in. Like It's not, you're not gonna cry about it. Be like, damn, I was making 20, now I'm making 10. So.
If I could add too, like it's so much easier to start a business than you realize. Like, I mean, Quincy Larson started his. I mean, everyone, like a few people started here, their own companies here, but it's so much easier than you realize. All you have to do is literally just start.
Mm-hmm.
and then you don't like, I don't know what I'm doing, and a lot of people don't know what they're doing. But once you start, like, there's a trickle effect and it gets easier. And then my first business, like I told you, we talked on the phone like middle of the night. My first business was hard as hell to make. I had no idea what to do. Then my second business was easy. My third business was even easier, and it's even easier to make money from that third business now. So you just start, no matter what it is.
Yeah, definitely, man. So let's go to Jeremiah. I mean, you got any regrets that you could say, damn, I regret this moment or this thing that I did or something as a developer?
Not one specific point, but I was kind of like on par with everyone else, and it's kind of like not failing earlier. Because I mean, I love failing. I love learning from my failure, and that's like a huge tenet of agile development is to fail early, fail often, and learn from that. And I just wish that I started earlier. There's not like this huge requirement that you need to know all the languages, like Danny said, or you don't need a college degree. Like many of us know here. So I wish I just started a little bit earlier and not been so scared to fail.
No, definitely.
So that's a good thing.
How about you, Quincy? Anything that you were like, damn, man, I could have started FreeCodeCamp a year before, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, my biggest regret is definitely that I was so intimidated by coding that I just thought, oh, it's not for me. Like, I just can't learn it. And I didn't start coding until I was age 31. And there were so many opportunities where I was like, I really wish I could build this project. And I was doing kind of entrepreneurial stuff. I was buying and selling. I'd go on Craigslist and buy like, retro video games and stuff that's hard to find. And then I'd get on eBay and resell them and stuff. And like so much of what I was doing probably could have been automated. But yeah, it was just that intimidation of, and I even had a friend who was working at Oracle as like an engineer there, like designing databases and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I think I want to learn to code. And he's like, man, it's an ocean of knowledge and you're going to drown, man. Like and I guess letting people discourage me or letting just negative experiences like, oh, syntax error, the cryptic errors you get when you're just first trying, and that can be really off-putting. So, I mean, what I would say to people who are grappling with whether they're able to learn to code, there's nothing built into the humans that evolutionarily prepared you to be able to code. Humans didn't grow up, on the African savannas 100,000 years ago with computers or even like math or anything like that, right? It was just, they did do some abstract thinking, but it wasn't on the level of what we have to do in our day-to-day job. So, your brain it's plastic. It'll flex and it'll build out new pathways, and you'll be able to make these connections. You'll be able to make it work. Like everything, it just comes down to practice and not being intimidated and being patient and just powering through those setbacks. So yeah, my advice to everybody would just be go ahead and start. And it's much better to code for like half an hour a day for a year than it is to like try to just say, all I'm going to do is code for a long time. Like sleep and time and all those things help solidify concepts in your brain. So take it easy. And, I wouldn't recommend quitting your job and just going all into coding. But if you can do it like a little by little and build up and maybe attend, a coding bootcamp, that's a great way to, like, once you built up some basic skills, that could be a great way kind of like to finish off. But definitely start slow and start deliberately. And just a quick note to add to what Chris Sean was saying about starting a business and stuff. Check out the Indie Hackers community. Great podcast. Cortland Allen, awesome guy, like super humble and super pragmatic in everything he does. I would listen to that podcast, and I think that's going to give you tons of ideas for how you can build like a small.
Which podcast?
Indie Hackers
side business.
Ooh,
Indie Hackers.
Yeah, so Indie Hackers is like one of those communities that I've been a part of for like years now. And that's where I get a lot of my ideas and I learn so much because it's people that have actually done it before. Like, sometimes, you'll see people that come in and be like, fake it till they make it. Like, hey, I'm a millionaire because of this and that. And, hey, buy my course or this. Like, nah, this is dudes that have created starters from the ground up, and everybody has created something that, you can aspire to be and say, damn, this guy went in and created this company, and now started with just $7,000 a month, monthly recurring revenue. A year later, you come back to that same individual. Now he's making 40, 50 grand a month from that same idea. And, he comes back to this podcast and just shares his knowledge. And you'll find guys that have been doing this like $30 million a year. They've grown companies that are super huge. And it's a great podcast. It's a great community for anybody that's interested in getting that bag. Guys, you got to check out the Indie Hackers, and shout out to my boy Peter Levels. But you know what? Somebody had a really good question, and I think Quincy could continue with this, and then from there we jump to everybody. How to get out of the learning phase and just code easy and understanding what goes on. Because a lot of times people fall trap to the tutorial hell, or tutorial heaven, whatever you want to call it, you say. But some people, they just get stuck in that world of like, I'm just doing a task, or taking a course, and they never get to build anything. I mean, what advice would you give them?
Wait, Joe, you forgot me for the last question.
Oh, go ahead. You got a regret.
I have a regret. I have a big regret, actually. So this was, I think this was 2 weeks ago. So 2 weeks ago, so this is back when I was looking for jobs. I'm chilling now, but 2 weeks ago I was doing a bunch of job interviews for startups, and after failing for like a month straight, I finally had a week where I had 2 final rounds, and I was like, this is the week. Like, I'm gonna be employed by the end of this week. 2 final rounds, no way I failed both. But then I had some like other interviews and stuff, and I remember it was 10 a.m. And I had an interview at 10 a.m. But I kind of forgot about it. I kind of really forget about it. I was just really tired. So I was sleeping, and then I get a call at 10 a.m. and I'm just looking at my phone, and I'm like, I could answer this right now and just pretend to be awake and just like answer the questions, or I could just go back to sleep. And then my mind was like, dude, you have 2 final rounds. You're not gonna fail them both. You're chilling. So I ignored the call and I went to sleep. I failed both. So I wish I took that call, to be honest. That could have been something, but oh well. not a bright moment. I got too comfortable. Got caught slipping there. Whoops.
Sometimes that happens, man. Sometimes you get comfy. You think like, I got this on the bag, and it's like, hey, you missed out on a great opportunity. But yeah, I think.
Hey Joe, me too for the last question. I didn't get to answer the last question.
I wasn't gonna, because I was like thinking in my head, I'm like, okay, we're gonna go in and jump into a couple of questions from the crowd, and then like some people's gonna answer it, some people's not gonna answer it, but it's completely fine. Go ahead, Danny, if you want to go into it.
Well, I was gonna just take it. Only reason why I'm even specifying this, I think this is kind of important. And it's kind of a different angle than everybody else. My biggest regret, honestly, was not understanding early on that I am not my code. And I, like, when somebody would code review it or critique my code, I was taking that so personally to where I was like, oh, they're just hating on me, or I know how to code. I know what I'm doing. Like, why are they critiquing me like this? I took it so personally to where it's like a personal attack. You are not your code. Your code is not an extension of yourself. Your code is a product that you're producing. If someone is giving you critique or advice or criticism, take that constructively and utilize that to improve your skill set. Because at the end of the day, and I'm a very firm believer in this, your skill set will produce for you. Your skill set is your ATM. As long as you're improving it, your income and your money will come. So don't worry if someone's critiquing it one way or another. Take that advice, research it, and figure out how you can implement those changes. And I think that's going to make you a better developer overall. And I wish I did that early instead of hanging on to that mindset for so long that, my code is a part of me, as opposed to it's just something that I'm producing.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, definitely. Now, going back to the other question, basically, trying to get people out of tutorial hell, of just continuing to learn but never building anything. Like, what's an advice that you will give to people, Quincy?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I just want to do a shout out for Tren Black. Thanks for sharing that cringy moment of self-sabotage. You're so candid in everything you do. If you haven't checked out his channel, he's got some great, like building Wii tennis in one day. That was probably my all-time favorite. Yeah, the tutorial hell is real. My friend Eric, who founded the Odin project, he wrote this tutorial, like, he wrote this article a while back called "Why is learning the code so damn hard?" If you Google that, you'll find his article, and it does a great job. I think probably the best job of explaining kind of the difficulty and the learning curve associated with learning the code. And there is a distinct phase where you feel like you're I'm really learning, I'm really getting good, and then you start to realize, oh my god, actually I suck, and like I need to go way up here now. And it feels for a long time like you've plateaued and you're not learning, but you're always steadily learning. That's the thing learning is not like this punctuated equilibrium experience. It's a slow and steady grind. But it doesn't feel like that. It feels like you have breakthroughs and stuff. And maybe you do have a few breakthroughs in terms of understanding things conceptually. But just to give a short answer, FreeCodeCamp, of course, like is often criticized for being a tutorial site. And we're actually responding to that criticism. So actually we have about 50 different projects that you build as you progress through the FreeCodeCamp curriculum. But we start off with kind of more vanilla tutorials where it's like, okay, now do this, now do this, now do this. And a lot of people find that's too handholdy. And we tell people like, oh, you can skip ahead to the projects, just build the projects if you want to get experience. But I really think like the key is just building as many projects as possible, preferably with test suites in place. And you can find tons of projects online. Of course, not just FreeCodeCamp, but there are lots of sites with just project ideas that you can go through and you can build. The goal of those projects is not to have like this portfolio with like 50, 100 projects where nobody cares. People just want to see one really complicated project when they're interviewing you. Like give them one single portfolio piece, preferably something people are actually using, and use that to sell yourself to employers. But in terms of getting out of tutorial hell, just build a lot of projects and just reference tutorials as necessary, and instead dive straight into the projects and just build. And that you'll get your bearing very quickly when you face a blank canvas and you have to figure out how to build a project, starting with zero code or starting with just a few basic libraries.
Yeah, definitely. How about you, Bobby? What you think about how can people get out of tutorial hell?
So me and Quincy have never talked, but we're on the same page on this thing exactly. You have to build a project. So the other thing I see that guys make and ladies make all the time is they don't know what they're trying to build. In other words, they don't pick a website, a mobile site, or whatever. They just say, I'm learning Python. And I always ask them, look, what are you trying to build? Like, I'm learning Python. I'm like, so we take the syntax of what we're trying to do and we learn about the syntax, an if statement, a switch statement, but we have no idea, like, well, how do I use this to actually build a project? And so, like, I think the best advice I give anyone is, before you pick a language, pick what you want to build. I want to build a website, a mobile site, or data science or whatever. And then research, like, what are the common stacks that we can use to build that with? And then just learn that. And then learn that until you're really good at it and build projects on the way, and then come back and pick up something else afterwards. I talked to a guy on the YouTube channel the other day that said he was learning 7 languages and he's not a professional developer yet. And like, get 6 of those out of the way and just learn one of those things and just build a website and start building projects. So if you go to like Colt Steele's course and you build Yelp Camp, your job shouldn't be to build Yelp Camp. It's to build something else by referencing Yelp Camp to see kind of like what I want to do. Or if you're at FreeCodeCamp and you're going through a tutorial, as soon as you finish that tutorial, try to build something else and just look at the tutorial for guidance. And I think that's the best way. And I think it's the only way to learn, because the job that we all get into isn't about a switch statement or a for each loop. It's about understanding the project, the thing that the customer's coming to you to say, hey, build me this. And then, so if you build a lot of projects, then you can suddenly have confidence. Oh, I can build that because I've built, 10 other projects.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer, man. How about you, Dave? Tutorial hell. How do we get people out of there?
Well, hopefully they don't stay out too long, because then I'll go out of business. No, I'm just kidding. So you have to build something. And when you build something for yourself, you have to realize that you are the stakeholder. You are the customer for this project. So you should have a lot of investment in it, not emotional investment, because I think that can get you in trouble, but you should have a lot of investment as far as what does this application need? What does this program or game need? And then what do we need to do to get a first iteration out? Even if this is something that you're going to host at your home in your basement, you still have a customer who is going to consume this, and that's yourself. So find something that you are passionate about. Don't go off and build the next, Google or Facebook just because you want to make a lot of money right now. Your only passion or investment there is the money. Find something that you have a problem, and it would be easier on your life if you were able to solve that problem through code. And I think that not only will you have passion for the project, the domain, so you're basically the subject matter expert on this because you know the painstaking that you're having with this problem, and then you can look to the community for guidance, whether it is through the tutorial sites or whether it's through community. I think that a lot of our languages that we all use, sounds like we use some different ones, but I think the Ruby community has a beautiful community. We're nice. We have a wonderful group, and it's, I think it's still growing. So I know the other language communities have a similar thing. So don't be afraid to ask questions. If you only ever do tutorials, it's kind of like this. Because I think some people are comfortable doing the tutorials. They're very comfortable at being an expert at the tutorials. And so I think that people are lifelong junior developers, essentially, where they never get out of that tutorial phase. They never break through because they're never wanting to take risks because they're always staying where they are comfortable. I think you do need to take risks. Don't risk your life, your finances, but you need to take risks as in, to get constructive criticism from other people. So don't try going about this all by yourself. Try to get feedback from the community, from a friend, from a peer developer that you are working alongside with on a project. If you always try to do it solo, and this kind of plays back to one of my biggest regrets, is that I tried to do everything by myself. If I can't be the master of everything, then I'm the master of nothing. So I tried to do everything all by myself, trying to do the back end, the server side, the front end, the infrastructure, and I limit myself on what I can actually learn and do, and I end up staying in the tutorial hell.
That's so great that you brought that up, because I also believe that there's a big difference, right? Exactly what you said. There's tutorial heaven and then tutorial hell. Tutorial heaven to me is when you love doing tutorials and you're like, hey, I could do this. Hey, I could take this course. And look, I have a great project at the end, right? So you're stuck in that world of being just like, hey, I could do things in this safe space, in this little box of like where everything works perfectly. And, I always have like some issue with when like instructors don't keep the errors or don't keep certain things inside of the courses, because people get stuck in that tutorial heaven of like, oh, look, the instructors show me how to do this and I could do it exactly like that, right? And everything works. But the moment they have an error and they try to go and build something on their own and they start seeing those errors, that's when they're like, okay, hold on. I got to get back to do my tutorials. I'm not ready to go to the deep end by myself because I can't figure out how to actually get the solution to this. So that's where tutorial hell comes in, and people just get stuck there and they're like, man, I can't take a risk, or hey, I don't want to challenge myself to go to the deep end. So it's a great way how you put it out there, Dave. But yeah, how about you, Krishan? How you got out of tutorial hell? How you got?
I stopped learning code and codingphase.com. I'm just joking.
Sponsored by
honestly,
Team Treehouse.
I've never been sponsored by them, but but honestly, man, I was in tutorial hell for like 2 years while like making my YouTube videos. And I was still like learning code from Treehouse, and then depending on Udemy and Udacity, I think that's one of the main reasons that I had imposter syndrome for the longest time. because what I thought was that I can only code whatever I learned from tutorials. I didn't know that I can just I can actually solve the problems on my own. So when I started working for Entrepreneur Magazine, I got in trouble a lot because the one thing they told me was that, Chris, your confidence, you have so much confidence when you talk on YouTube, but why when you're coding, why are you so negative on yourself? And so I agree with what Coder Foundry said, what Quincy, Larson said as well, because the one way to get out of that is literally, I personally think, is that only referring to tutorials when you actually have no idea how to do something. Just referring to that as something just to help you on the side, but do not completely depend on that. Learn to use just documentation. And what we heard from in regards to Coding Foundry, when I was working on my first developer job, I hired an intern there, and he would never listen to me. The biggest problem that he had, the biggest mistake he made, was that he was literally learning 5 different languages at once. He was learning HTML, CSS, JavaScript, C#, PHP. What else was he learning? Python all at once. I'm telling, man, stop doing that. If you keep doing that, you're not going to be able to do anything. So I think one of the best ways is literally just stop fully depending on tutorials. Doing it at the beginning, yeah, it makes sense. For example, if you want to go to Team Treehouse, take a description of one of my YouTube videos. Just kidding. But go there for maybe a few months, but learn how to really use documentation and just build a lot of projects. Whether it's big, whether if it's small, just build a lot. That's the best way to learn, because that's how you learn at a job. You build a lot, you fail a lot. That's how you become a better developer.
Yeah, no, that sounds good, man. How about you, Chau? I mean, right now you're in that process of actually getting hired, but I'm pretty sure now you're a little bit more comfortable where you got off that tutorial hell of I'm just following courses and courses, or are you still in that world? I mean, you're still a young developer,
Yeah. I honestly, before when I first started, for sure, I was in it for the longest time. I think the one big thing there is the confidence level was really, really low in terms of seeing myself actually coding on my own and being I don't know if I can really do this thing. It's making a project on my own it's just way too difficult. I can't do this. So, right now, especially, I've become more aware of the tutorial hell and taking way too many tutorials and just being okay, this isn't really the way I grow. Taking tutorials is great, but am I actually understanding that I have the basic knowledge of things that are used to build projects? And I'm not really utilizing that right now. And I think the one big thing there, if I was to give any tips on that, getting out of tutorial hell, aside from what everyone has already said, is that getting an accountability buddy and just being yo, let's collaborate on something, or give me an idea of something to build and I'll do my best to build it, even if it doesn't work or if it doesn't look that great. It pushes me to now actually apply myself, because someone is waiting for me to quote unquote ship a product for them. Whether it's a group of friends or a friend of mine, we had an idea, cool, let's do this. Or, recently I built a website for the gym owner of the gym that I go to. And that really pushed me and put me out of my comfort zone, because she is now waiting for a website for her company. So it puts me on the spot to actually make something. And I think that I preach this, and Dave touched on this a little bit too. And I always say this on Twitter, on Instagram, whatever. You have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? And I purposely put myself in those positions to where, okay, I'm being put on a spot right now. Someone I genuinely care about, is looking for something from me. I need to apply and I need to perform right now in order to really give them something they're looking for. Because at the end of the day, it was her business. With how good this website was or how well it was laid out, that's new clients for her gym. So I need to make sure this thing converts well. And I think that if that's going to be something that I can actually give as a tip, it's finding someone to put you on the spot and make you accountable in a sense. If, that's another tip aside from what other people are giving.
Yeah, no, that sounds great, man. I think everybody has been giving some really good feedback on this, especially for the junior developers. Another thing that somebody asked, I'm trying to find the question in here, but it was more of how do you get your first job, which is the first question for everybody. How do you get that first job? What are the tips that you will say that you need to get that first job, guys? So we're gonna start with Jeremiah. I mean, you're coming from Air Force background, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure that your knowledge and your history can be something super, productive for people here to see and to hear, right? Your point of view of things.
So what do you need restate the question again? What do you need to get your first job?
Yeah. Like, what's some tips that you would say for somebody what are like the things that they need to get a job, right? Like, let's say maybe skills or maybe, I don't know, mindset, whatever you might think that.
Gotcha. We've heard a lot of people say that people that are starting to learn to code are failing because they're trying to do too many languages. They're trying to learn 5 languages at once. When in reality, they should just be trying to learn one language and understanding that language in and out. Because once you have a good, solid understanding of one language, it's super easy not super easy, but it's a little bit more easy to change it up if you need to learn a different language. That's a lot easier if you just know one core foundational language. And every time I try to apply for a new position, I hear the same thing in the interviews. And it's like, yeah, we're looking for someone who has the ability to learn and to learn the ability to learn and to learn quickly. And I think that's a huge skill, is to be able to be dynamic in what you're learning.
Nice. That's a really good answer. How about you, Danny?
Yeah, I'm so glad you picked on me, because this is like one of my biggest things. I've helped over 100 people land their first jobs in tech. I've got 4 steps that you need to take to land a job in tech. First one, you have to have a strong LinkedIn profile. I preach LinkedIn because it is just incredibly powerful. I released a series on LinkedIn, and just in the last month alone, just off of Twitter messages, at least 40 people have landed their first jobs in tech just in the last month alone. LinkedIn, there's 675 million monthly users on there, of which 90 million are hiring managers, recruiters, and decision makers for businesses. You need to stand out where they hang out. Simple as that. If they all hung out at this one bar, I would tell you go hang out at that bar, right? Well, they're in one centralized place on this website. Make a profile that helps you stand out. Make sure you're showcasing your best side, and I guarantee you're going to start getting results. And if you need help with that, check out my LinkedIn series. Highly recommend that. Second step, you have to have a good portfolio site. Now, this doesn't necessarily need to be super technical, but it does need to be appealing to the eye, and I will tell you why. Most hiring managers have never written a line of code a day in their life. They will trust that site on a subliminal level because it looks good. They're like, oh, this person probably knows what they're doing. And then they pass that on to the decision maker of that role. That is where tip number 3 comes in. You have to have strong portfolio items. This is where you show what you're talking about. This is where you showcase your command of the language. This is where you show that you know what you're doing and you belong in this role. These are your projects. Now, you don't have to have 50 projects on there. You don't have to have every single YouTube tutorial you ever followed on there, right? You don't need to have those things. You just need 1, 2, or 3. You need quality here. Your quality is what's going to make you stand out. But don't do the same thing. Don't make like an Amazon clone or something like that. It's cool if you do that, but it's better if you do something that is solving a problem in a different way. Because if you make a Twitter clone, for example, everybody knows what Twitter is. They're not really going to ask questions about that. But if you were to make something like, okay, I made an application that separates city data names between urban and rural, and I use SQL to make that. I use Java on the back end, and I used Angular on the front end. This is something they're going to ask you questions about in an interview. Well, how did you do that? Did you feed in an API? How are you separating this? That's what gets them talking to you and more interested. That's the hook. Step number 4, you have to have a good resume. Your resume is going to go through the ATS software, so you need to make sure you're matching keywords and things like that. But you also need to make sure that you have something to hand over in an interview. And the biggest thing about the portfolio, it's almost like a business card in tech. And I see we have one comment here. You're saying the how do we get the portfolio pieces that other people haven't already done. It doesn't matter if people have done it or not. What matters is that you've put your spin on it. You've put your abilities to it. What matters is you've put your time into this thing. You don't need to make a portfolio in 5 hours or 3 hours. You don't need to follow a YouTube tutorial to do that. Do your own thing. And I guarantee people are going to appreciate that.
Nice. Definitely. I really like the answer on that one too. How about you? Let's see who else wants to jump in, guys. Go ahead, Tren.
Let me talk about this because see, it's different for me. So You guys are all like adults with real jobs, but I don't think you guys know the whole like internship grind and like getting your first internship. So like for college students, so so let me talk about that. So I just got my, well, I guess this is my second offer, but so last year I got my first internship, but it got canceled because of COVID. So I guess it's not really my first offer. And then this month I got 2 offers. One from a bank and one is Fang. So for those who don't know what Fang is, it's Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google. So I'm going to be taking the Fang offer. But let me just talk about how I got that. Okay, so I think this is very different from getting a job. Because last year I had what Danny was talking about. I had a beautiful portfolio site and I had a LinkedIn. And I didn't really get anything last year. This year, I don't even have a LinkedIn. And this year, I don't have a portfolio site. I decided to even make any of those, or I went against using those. But the one thing that's really important, and this is so counterintuitive to like every advice for actual jobs, I just did so much lead code questions because that's what they expect for college students or from interns. I mean, they don't really care so much about actually being able to make things yet. They just want to know that you're like a smart person with potential. So doing lead code questions kind of gives the illusion that you are that person, even if you aren't actually that smart. And so there's 2 steps, obviously: pass the interview and get the interview. And pass the interview is what I just talked about by doing all those lead code questions. To get the interviews, I think first and foremost, every major company, you could probably find someone that'll give you a referral. I mean, you don't even have to know anyone that works at that company. You can just find people like on the internet or on Reddit or on LinkedIn to like give you a referral if you ask nicely. So always try to apply with the referral. And then if that doesn't work, try emailing recruiters. I emailed so many recruiters. If you just find their email somehow and ask them for an interview, I've got a few that way. I think besides that, you should definitely apply to like every big internship. So if you've applied to like less than 200 places for internships, definitely you're not applying enough. And yeah, good luck on the internship grind if you're in college.
Nice. It's good to see, that point of view because, a lot of times, even myself, I talk here on CodingPhase.com on how to get a job. And usually my audience is the guy who has a blue collar job. Hey, he's Uber, he's working on Lyft, he's coming off the truck. You get what I'm saying? Like that individual who's trying to get into the game, and it's a whole different way of getting into jobs and into opportunities than from the college student who's like, hey, I don't even have a project. I'm studying, I'm building all of these things from classes, and I'm just trying to get an internship to learn within the company. So it's really great that you came in and gave us that point of view, because I always tell people also too, you got to have a goal in your mind when you're getting into the game. What is it that you want? If I always say this, like if your goal is to go into Fang and to work in those companies, you got to prepare yourself to go to those companies. If your goal is to say, hey, I want to get a job in 30 days from now, then you got to prepare yourself for that goal. If your goal is to become an entrepreneur and create applications independently, then you have to prepare yourself for that goal also. Like everybody has a different journey, but you also have to find the right resources to be able to achieve your goals. You can't just say, hey, I want to find a job, but I'm watching a YouTube channel that talks about, hey, how to get into Fang, and I'm trying to find a job in a month, right? I gotta pay the bills, right? I wouldn't do that. It's the same thing as somebody, a young kid who's like, hey, I want to get into Fang, right? But I'm gonna go watch CodingPhase, who's preparing me to get a job by the end of the month. Like it's 2 different things. It's different goals, right? It's the same thing for people that want to make income independently. Like I wouldn't tell somebody, hey, go watch this other channel, because their goal and their message and what they're trying to get you into might not be aligning with your goals. So it's great to see that other point of view, because a lot of my students and my subscribers here don't see that grind of, hey, you got to go through leak code. Hey, I don't even have a portfolio. I still got the interview and the internship and this and that. It's a different grind, guys. But also too, Tren, I also want you to share, because since you're already in that topic, how long were you doing lead code? Because that's another thing too. Because people be acting like, oh, hey, I'm gonna get into Fang. I'm gonna get into Fang, and this is gonna happen in a month. It's like you let people know exactly how long did it take you.
Oh my God, lead code makes me want to shoot my brains out. Okay, so for starters, I'm already like good at math and stuff. So like theoretical stuff is already like what I'm good at. But even despite that, I've been studying for over a year. So the first time I started studying for lead code was not like it was summer before my sophomore year. So I think summer 2019. And that's the first time I realized like how much internships paid, and my mind was blown. I was like, I need to get into this now. And I haven't taken there's this course called like data structures and algorithms that you take in colleges. I haven't taken that yet. So I didn't even know what a hash map was, and I didn't know like what Dijkstra's algorithm was, like basic things in data structures and algorithms. So I got this book. The book was called Elements of the Programming Interview in Python. And I read that every single day for about 6 hours a day for about a month for that summer. So that's how I learned it. And then that coming recruiting season, I had some interviews. I had an interview with Facebook, failed first round. I had an interview with Bloomberg, failed first round. I failed everything first round, even though I had already studied for a month straight for 6 hours a day. And I thought I was doing okay, but apparently not. And then that entire year, I was also doing mock interviews with my friends. So we were like going on lead code, looking at questions and asking to each other. Amazing way to prepare, by the way. If you guys have friends, I hope you guys have friends, interview each other. It really does like recreate like the interviewing environment. So that was the entire year, but it wasn't like hardcore the entire year. But I think what really helped was these past few months where I was basically doing lead code questions by topic. So I was doing a bunch of hash map questions at once, and then a bunch of like linked list questions at once, binary search tree questions. That way I could train my pattern recognition. And then from there, when I would see a question, I could easily decide what pattern it falls into and then do it from there. But in terms of hours, I'll say 200 hours. I think if you do 200 hours of intense lead code prep, not like wiggling around lead code, like actually like intensely studying it, 200 hours, you'll be solid.
Nice. All right, guys, let me see. See from the community.
Hey, can I jump in for a second?
Go ahead.
Yeah, because I kind of approach this from the other side of the table. So essentially, just to give you a bit of my past experience, I've been on the other side of the table for 12 years at the same job with 3 different employers. So the company that I originally worked at sold off, and then I came on board with another company. That company then sold off, and then I joined and followed through the other company. So between the 3 companies at the same job, I've had over 12 years of experience. And the best part about that was sticking around through all of this junk, through the transitions, is that I've been able to see how each company does things different. This is coming from small company with 300 employees to companies that has over 13,000 employees to a company that has 2,000 employees. So each one has their own different perspective on how things should hire. And my experience with hiring is that I would go through thousands of resumes and I would hire essentially 10 people at the end. And I really kind of had to gauge things on 4 different things. It was, number one, their resume. What does their resume look like? Because in Japan, in Japanese, there is a thought or a idea of ichigo ichie, and it is a first. You have one chance to make a first time impression. You know, it's a once in a lifetime chance to make a first time impression, and that's what your resume is. That's the very first thing that I'm going to see. I'm not going to go to your LinkedIn profile and then, go through a whole bunch of people and then try to get all of those people and then ask for their resume. No, I'm going to see your resume first because you applied for a job here. So then once I see your resume, I get on the phone with you if I like you, and then I basically will come to a determination on 3 different things. And it's basically what? W-A-T. Are you willing? Are you able? And where are you at today? So, and essentially, it doesn't matter if I'm hiring for a junior position or if I'm hiring for a senior position. Is this person willing? So, are they willing to do the work? Or are they just looking for a free ride? That's really important because that says a lot about their work ethic. It says a lot about their mentality, and it says a lot about where they at maturity wise today. Are they wanting to be a part of the team, or are they wanting to just skate by? And then are they able? So are they teachable essentially? So if they are not willing and they are not able, then they're not going to get hired. But if they are willing, but they're not able, and if they are applying for a junior position, then that shows me that they will be, they are essentially capable of the position. And I think that's worth a chance. And it also comes down to where are they at today. So if I'm hiring for a senior or a principal position, but I'm getting someone who has only 1 year of experience, that's just that, we can't do that. But if we are looking for a junior to mid person, and if they are both willing and they're able, then that says so much to me about where they're at. And I like to kind of circle back to the resume bit. The resume is so much more than just your work experience. It shows me so much. If you hand me a resume, and I promise you this did happen, if you hand me a resume that has 10 or more pages, I'm literally going to take pages 3 to the end and throw them in the trash. That's not me being a jerk. That's not me being mean. It tells me that you have a severe communication problem. You have a real problem with being able to communicate to me who you are, why you deserve to work here. Because let's face it, I can't spend 8 hours a day listening to you ask one small question. Communication is so important.
It's true.
It is. So that's not me being a jerk or anything. That's just the fact of life. You have to be able to communicate good. Your resume is the first impression that I will get about your communication style and how effective it is. And then what's on there? If I'm applying for a developer position, don't say that, I was flipping burgers on, don't take up a half page of the resume saying that, I'm really good at flipping burgers, because that's not going to really get you anything. And don't really say and go into a lot of things that are not relevant to that position you're applying for. Even if you've had 10 jobs over the past 10 years, you don't need to list all 10 jobs. Pick and choose. So you're basically having to tailor your resume for each individual job that you're applying for. Pick and choose what's going to be the best fit for that interview or for that particular job. So that's it. I just want to give that.
No, that's perfect, bro. That's like, that's pretty much like what I used to do when I was like applying to jobs. And that's one of the main reasons why I brought you into this live stream, is because I feel like the type of way how you analyze things and the type of individual that you are also aligns a lot with the type of person that I am, especially we come from that Ruby background, right? But to be honest with you, like that's what I used to do. So some people will look at me crazy if they see all of my resumes, right? I have about like 6-7 different resumes, and it all depends on what type of industry it is, what type of work I'm going to be doing. And I have everything tailored according to that. If I find that is something relevant to that position, I keep it. If I find it that there's nothing relevant there to that position, I take it out. So for example, like for e-commerce, a lot of the companies that I work for were in e-commerce. So I kept some of the jobs that I did with retail to talk about sales and talk about how customer service and things like that work. At the same time, I also kept things like when I used to work as a product editor for a company that used to do eBay, Amazon, etc. So I would talk about those things in that area and talk about how we were able to price certain items, and at the same time, how I was able to create landing pages for that company to be able to sell more products, because all of those things are related to e-commerce. And then when I would go in, I could have a conversation with the individuals, and they already know exactly what I'm trying to do here, like, and what I can do for them, So, and another thing too, just like you said, first impressions is everything. I come in and I tell that to everybody here, and people laugh like, Joe, sometimes people could go in and make mistakes and this and that. It's like that one mistake or that first misstep or whatever it might be. That could just disqualify you, because when it comes down to it, there could be another guy just as qualified as you, but that one mistake that you made, either on your resume or even on your website, right? Let's say, for example, two guys show up, they both know HTML, CSS, JavaScript. One guy shows up with a website that's responsive, another one shows up with just a landing page and is not responsive. Who you think is going to get the job? It's the guy that at least put in more effort to get in the opportunity. You get what I'm saying? So little things like that is super helpful when you're trying to find your first job, guys. All right. Let me see. Anybody else got any more questions? If not, we're gonna hop on to the last question. Okay. So let me know. Anybody in here, y'all want to answer to anything about talking about getting into the first job? If you guys have anything that you guys want to share.
If I could add one thing, it's going to be really short. Stop waiting too long to apply to your first job. The reason I got my first developer job, and I know it's random, I got very lucky in 3 months, was because I did not wait until a year or 2 years to apply. I realized, these jobs are available now. They won't be available in 1 week or 3 weeks from now. So if I apply to them, what do I have to lose? They'll be gone anyway by the time I think I'm ready. You'll never be honestly ready for a job until you actually have that job. Or even when you have that job, you still won't be ready, to be honest. So for aspiring developers who haven't gotten the first job now, stop waiting too long to apply. Start applying, because that job won't be there anymore.
No, that's great.
Dude, that's the truth. Same thing goes with kids, man. Don't wait to be a parent. You just kind of have to jump into it.
I'm not sure I agree with that.
Here I go.
I don't know. We started one right now. It's a little too soon, you think?
Yeah, no,
Wow.
I definitely. I don't know. I got 3 kids now, and I would say for anybody that could wait because it's a lot of commitment, especially with kids. As a developer, like there's days that I look at somebody like Tren Black, who's doing a whole bunch of like cool little projects that he just gets done in a day or two, or even Ben Awad, when he just comes in, creates a VS stories or things like that. And to be honest, I don't have the time to do any of those things. I want to. I would love to be able to create those little projects and little things like that. But pretty much my whole day is every hour needs to be profitable. Like that's how I look at it, because I have kids, I have a family, I have things to maintain, I have business, I got employees, I got stuff that goes around. So I don't have that luxury. So when you're young and you're still like at that stage of like, hey man, I could take risks. It's like Chris Sean just moved from LA to Vegas to Tennessee, and it's like, hey, I could just leave, right? Once you have a family, it definitely is a different dynamic. So always keep that in mind. But when it happens, it happens. You know what I mean? Like, don't go in and be like, well, Ma, listen, what can we do about this? Now it's like, hey, man up. You know what I mean? Do what you got to do.
Can I say one small thing on that? Like what Chris says, don't wait. But also one thing that I would say is don't rush either. And the reason for that is I was lucky enough very early on when I just started learning JavaScript. Like I was so fresh. I just got to the JavaScript section and FreeCodeCamp, and I literally convinced one company to give me an interview. And so as they're giving me this interview, we're talking, and they're like, well, do you know JavaScript? I'm like, yeah, I know JavaScript. And mind you, at this time, like I didn't even know what an array was, right? Like so fresh into it. And I was like, yeah, no, JavaScript, I'm learning. I'm continuously learning, and I'm working on a project right now for JavaScript. So into it. And like, well, what about React? And I was like, yeah, I know how to react. Happy, sad, mad. What are you talking about? I was so new into JavaScript, I didn't even know what a framework was, right? I didn't get that far into FreeCodeCamp yet. So just make sure, like, I could audibly hear, like, that interview was probably going to be an hour, and I got cut down to like 4 minutes super fast. But it was a great learning experience for me as well, because I realized what I needed to be marketable in the industry. But oh man, like, I'll never forget that, like, the drop in voice went from oh to oh. Yeah, this is probably not for you. You're probably not ready yet. So just keep that balance.
Just to add on to both those points too, and I talked about this kind of like in my own content, was live your own story at your own pace. Like that just touches on what Danny, Chris was touching on, was like, don't get caught up in other people's stories. Don't get caught up on like how fast someone else did something. And like, it's good. It's great that other people are doing it so fast. Like with Chris, it's been 3 months, but it's not your life. So it's just like, go at your own pacing. And we talked about this. People have families, people have full-time jobs, whatever it is, the things in life that you have to navigate, like take that into account and live it, right? Like you can't rush this. You can't take it too slow, but like live your own journey and take it at your own pace. And when it happens, like, again, just take it a day at a time. This isn't a thing where you can say, oh, I'm going to do this in 6 months. Okay. Like you can try. Is it going to happen? Maybe not. But that's like what's discouraging is when you put yourself on a time frame. So don't try to put a timetable on this thing, because, and as we said before, and we'll always preach, is, this whole coding thing is going to be a lifelong learning journey. So, you're never going to be done. When people ask like, oh, how much do I need to know? Or when am I ready? It's like, you never will be. You're going to be learning even when you think you're a quote unquote expert. So just keep on moving and keep on trucking, but like live your own life and live your own journey. Don't try to live other people's lives for your own.
Yeah, no, that's hot, man. I'm gonna piggyback on that because that's a really good point. And I'm gonna say this, don't go out there and look at how other people's journey's been and think that that's exactly how yours is gonna be, right? Always keep that in mind. You're on your own journey, right? I see a lot of people. I talked about this in a previous video where I was talking about, hey, is the MERN stack the best stack for the junior developer? And to be honest, for the majority of people, it's no, it's probably not, because you're missing opportunities in your area. Because you might say, well, little Billy in San Francisco just got hired with Node.js, React, MongoDB, etc., right? But you live in Wyoming, they're using C# and PHP. So now you're only learning a certain thing that, because you think, oh, this person just got hired in 3 months over there, this is going to happen for me here. It's like, sometimes you got to do the research, look in your local area and find out the things that is going to be, faster for you to get into the game. Because you could stand around and say, hey, I'm waiting for this Python job, but, I live in West Virginia and I'm just waiting for this Python job. You could be there for 1.5 years. A guy that's in San Francisco just got it in 2 months. But you in West Virginia, you missed out on the C# jobs. You missed out on the PHP jobs. You missed out on that WordPress agency. You missed out on a lot of opportunities that could have really gotten you into the game. But because you're trying to put yourself into other people's shoes, you're not looking around what's in your area. You get what I'm saying? So always keep that in mind. Like, you can't think that if something happened for somebody and, they could be at the right place at the right time, right situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, I tell people all the time, like, yo, keep that in mind. You have your own journey and you have to do your own research and understand that you might get it right away, but it might take you a year. You know what I'm saying? But it's all on to you on how you go on this journey as a developer. All right. Now, the last question that I want to talk about is, what's something that you guys are excited about? All right. And we're going to go into every single person here. We're going to start with Jeremiah. What's something that you're excited about that you're working on or building, or something, maybe some new technology or a new project that you're working on or something? What you're excited about right now?
I'm excited about actually getting into the interview process. My enlistment in the military is coming to an end, and I'm ready to kind of move into the civilian sector and hopefully work for a FANG company. So I'm ready to do the elite code grind and that headache that Tren loves so much. And fail there. But personally, as a personal project, I'm working on again a Netflix clone. But I forgot who said don't just make a clone. So I'm trying to make it a little bit more flavorful. So I am making a Netflix clone that hits the YouTube API, and I'm going to include all of my favorite Black and Tech creators. I call it Bitflix, like Black and Tech, and it's just going to display it like a Netflix, but it'll just be the Black creators that I've looked up to as I was joining my YouTube career. So that's my personal project.
Nice. How about you, Bobby? What you excited about right now? What you working on?
So for senior devs or people that are already coding, I'm excited about a couple of things right now. What I always say is like, look back like 10 years and look for shifts in the industry. And I think we're seeing a shift in the industry now towards a couple of things. And this is what I'm personally working on. I think WebAssembly is huge. But beyond that, I think voice applications are going to be definitely huge in the next 5 years with augmented reality. So I'm working on all three of those. For me, that WebAssembly means Blazor, but it could be, there's a Rust implementation or whatever implementation you want to use. And then looking at AI and voice, because like if Apple releases an eyeglass and suddenly your screen is in your eyewear, you can control apps through voice. And I just want to be up to speed on how that works, how you do it, whether you're using Cortana or Siri or, or Alexa or whatever you're doing. So that's kind of what I'm real excited about right now is just the new screen shifts that are coming out and the new technology.
Nice. How about you, Dave? What you working on? What you excited about?
So this is not the right channel or place to say this stuff because, I think you guys are on a completely different stack, except for maybe you, but I love Stimulus.js. I think it is amazing. It's a micro JavaScript framework that was built by the same guys who built Ruby on Rails and released ads. So a company called Basecamp, and it's amazing. It does so much that we don't even need to add in the overhead like React, Vue.js or Angular. You can do everything that you need to do on the modern web today for the most part with just plain old vanilla Ruby on Rails and Stimulus.js and TurboLinks. So it's a direction that I've really invested in and that I really believe that still has a lot of value to add to the modern web today. And plus WebAssembly, as Bobby says, that's really dope. I'm really interested to see where that goes in the future.
Nice. So let's see. We got Quincy. Quincy, what you working on?
Yeah. We're working on a comprehensive math curriculum. A lot of people think, oh, I don't really need to know that much math to be able to code, and that's true. But it doesn't hurt to know math. And in fact, if you know a lot of math, it can actually, like a lot of the most optimal solutions to like algorithms that you're going to be encountering as you grind through algorithms, math-based approaches. Sorry for the kid noise in the background.
Yeah, no, don't worry, man.
Yeah, so we're looking at like Carnegie Mellon, MIT, Georgia Tech, University of Texas, like looking at their CS programs and their electrical engineering programs and trying to figure out how we can cover all those same mathematical topics interactive in the browser so that, FreeCodeCamp can have a substantial math curriculum for people who just didn't like math when they were younger. They can kind of ease back into it. And also for, people who just did do math a long time ago, but it's been years since they really used any of it, and they can kind of get a solid footing in mathematics. So that's probably the thing I'm most excited about. That'll take another year or two to build, but we're working on it. Nice.
Man, I can't wait for that, man. I'm super excited for it. Also, I want to say, man, you're a huge inspiration. As another dad that, you know what I mean? Because I always see you, I'm like, man, this dude is a family man. This dude he making so many moves. He's always grinding, going to all these events and going to all these things. Of course, coronavirus put a stop to everybody's moves, but at the same time, I'm like, man, huge inspiration, and I just want to say thank you for coming through, bro, for sure. Okay,
nice, likewise, man.
Yeah, man. How about you, Chau? What's going on with you, bro? What you excited about?
What's there not to be excited about, honestly? But like, right now I'm excited about growing my personal brand. Chau Codes is kind of taken off within the year, so formed a little community, and I'm just excited to be, building projects with them and just bringing everyone along for my personal journey. Hopefully, at some point, the job interviews will start coming in, and I'll start phasing into that. But recently, decided to go back to a little bit of the basics. So hopefully we can build some like vanilla projects with just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, no frameworks. But yeah, continuously putting out content and just growing as an individual and as a developer for sure. That's what I'm excited about.
Nice. Yeah, man, your channel is definitely gonna be blowing up. It's already on the way up. So trust me, all that work that you're putting in right now, especially those tutorials. Little do you know, like maybe right now you might get 2,000, 4,000 views on a video. Those are the videos that in a year from now you're gonna see like, damn, it's 100,000 views now. Like,
yeah,
because it just that's the way how it goes.
Yeah,
as long as you continue staying consistent, still dropping that fire. People is already talking about you. That's why we got you in here. You know what I mean? We had to, bring in the #1 draft pick right now. So we got the #1, the #2, with #3 young developers in here that's popping up on YouTube. So definitely, I always try to do that. I try to bring in new developers and new YouTubers and bring that diversity into the game, right? And that's what we all here for, supporting each other. At the same time, hopefully you support me and support everybody that's in here, and we all just continue to collaborate and continue to work. But you're definitely on your way up, bro. How about you, Tren? What you excited about? I mean, you about to go work at your Fang. It's like, hey, all that work paying off now.
Yeah. I'm definitely excited to have like my first like real job experience, and I'm privileged that it happens to be Fang. But also, I don't know. I've talked to a lot of people about having real jobs, and everyone who knows me, who's had a real job, they're gonna tell me that I'm gonna hate it. They're saying like I'm not built for like corporate, and they're probably right. But I'm kind of excited to like experience that for myself. But also, so I took a bit of a hiatus from YouTube. I don't think I posted a video in like 2 months, and I have a few videos coming up, so I'm excited for that. Like one of the videos it's called Data Structures and Algorithms in 15 Minutes, where I just teach the entire topic at a high level in 15 minutes, but in a way that's also funny. It's like casually explained. So I think that's gonna be fire. I hope. Maybe it won't. I don't know. And I'm also working on a short film that's related to programming. It's like a mini Black Mirror episode. I hope it turns out like a mini Black Mirror episode, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just not good at making videos. So really excited for those 2 videos. And lastly, I just started a second channel, and I'm excited to post on there because it's so low pressure. Like I'll make a video in like 40 minutes and just put it on there and not really care how it performs. So having the pressure lifted off from my main channel just to be able to like meme post on my second channel has been a lot of fun. I'm excited for that. Also, responding to Quincy Larson, you said like math. I think math is so important if you want to be good at algorithms. I think algorithms is entirely just kind of math with like coding mixed into it, but mostly like it's mostly math behind it. So definitely recommend becoming good at math if you want to be good at algos.
Danny, did we get Danny in here?
No.
What you excited for, bro?
Man, I'm excited for so many things. One thing I would say real fast, just as a thank you to everybody that's a part of this, and I'm so humbled that I'm even allowed to be a part of this. But, this would be a perfect time right now for everybody in the chat to hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm, man. Help us out, and hopefully if this gets enough likes, CodingPhase brings us all back again. But I'm excited for a couple things that we're doing. One thing that I'm really excited about, I'm really focused on helping people in certain communities, lower income communities. And the theory behind that, Memphis, we have some of the lowest cost of living in the country, but we also have some of the lowest cost of earners in the country, where we have an area in particular where the annual household income is on average $18,000 per household. So if I could take one of these people and give them like learning resources and courses and things to help them learn, and I don't charge for any of this. I do all this for free. I don't monetize any of this. I just want to help. And if we could get one of them into a job where they're making 80 grand a year, they're now generating 4.5 times the average income. If I can get 20 people from that exact same neighborhood, I just changed the neighborhood. schools are benefiting because they're paying more in taxes. Families are benefiting, their kids are benefiting. But also, we're helping deter gun violence, drug violence, and gang violence. But we're also removing the number one reason for divorce in these communities: financial issues. So just by providing learning resources and help, like we can totally change basically the income disparity in that area. Not only that, right now I'm also working on, it's with our Discord community, but I'm working on a idea where it's a website that we're making. It's a community project. We're making the entire thing in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, making it as beginner friendly as possible. But the idea behind this is I don't want it to be my website or someone else's website. It's a website made by the community for the community. So we want to help like all kinds of people from all skill levels, from professional to beginner, just come together and like they'll do one piece to this website here, one piece there, and it helps everybody just come together and do something awesome. And it's probably going to take way longer than anything else because we're going to have so many people working on this. But I think it's still going to be so worth it to have everyone just contribute to something that's going to be awesome. And the last thing that I'm working on, you know, I did 2 conferences this year. I did 27 meetups this year. I've had developers and, technology specialists from all over the country come and like give Memphis some attention. And it's something that we've kind of been lacking a little bit. And I really love the idea of trying to amplify that in a bigger way. And I was the lead organizer for the Southern Dev Fest, where we had a conference last month, where we had communities from Texas to North Carolina to Florida and every state in between. Bobby Davis Jr., he was one of the speakers for that as well. And actually, Quincy Larson was a speaker at one of my meetups as well. And I love that, all these sectors of the world are coming together. But I really want to try and increase that support to make sure we're providing assistance and learning to people that really can't afford it. So I've given out a ton of courses, and I just did a giveaway last week, $1,500 giveaway of just courses and learning resources. I just want to give as many people as I can feasibly give them the resources they need to reach that next level.
Nice. Yeah, man. Let's go to Chris Sean. Chris Sean, let the people know what you hype about. What you working on, kiddo?
It's kind of crazy that I was living in my car 5 years ago. I just hired 2 front-end developers for my company, 1 back-end developer, 1 designer. And we're going to build something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and is build an online mentoring program. Because I think one thing that every developer needs, aspiring or current developer, is that they need a mentor to help them. If I had a mentor, well, I got a job in 3 months, but even when I was a developer, as a junior developer who knew nothing, a mentor would have helped me so much rather than depending on my senior developers all the time. So we're creating a online mentoring platform where people from starting in the United States will be able to find a mentor that can help them and guide them in the journey. And so I just want to be able to help many developers. And as my desk accessory company is blowing up right now, I'm also going to build a free online bootcamp for people who can't afford bootcamp, where people could learn front-end development, back-end development, where I'll be paying these instructors to teach for free. Hopefully, I'll probably host a school in one of my warehouses. So that's the goal for the next 2 years.
Nice. So let's see. We hopped on everybody. Yeah, I think I can go then if anybody. Basically, what am I excited about? I'm excited for this. I'm excited to have all of these individuals here on this live stream, showing how the community can work together, collaborate with each other. And everybody, pretty much literally everybody that I invited to this live stream came. So I'm super grateful for that, especially, Tren Black told me, I'll see if I make it. Like, wow. I can't promise nothing, but he made it. He made it.
I was sleeping. Look at my bed. I woke up right before the
I can't promise nothing, but he made it.
Oh my God.
So I'm super excited that everybody here came through. I'm excited about what's happening right now in YouTube. We're seeing a more diverse community. We're starting to see more Blacks, Latinos, more Asians coming into the forefront of what is a web developer, what is a software engineer. We're seeing more of a diverse community here on YouTube, and I feel like partially responsible for that also by being a member of this community and continue to preach out here, the good things that comes from becoming a developer and showing people that, you know, we can do it too, and how we can make a difference here. And because everybody has different opportunities and different you know, backgrounds, and you know, all of that can contribute to a team, and we are just as valuable as anybody else here in the community. So that was one thing that I'm super excited about. And you know, I'm excited that Quincy Larson came through. You know, some people say, I don't know if Quincy's gonna make it. I'm like, Quincy's my boy. He coming through, bro. He's gonna make it somehow. Trust me. So I'm super happy for that. And then at the same time, I have you know, the things that I'm working on here in Tampa, Florida. We have an agency, which I've been dying to create an agency for years. You know, and I was like, you know, at that point of my life back in the days, I was like, man, I don't know if I could do it. How do I look like as the owner of the company, and being on top of the projects, and getting people to do their work, and now being responsible to meet up with clients and things like that. You know, that was a big challenge, and everything has been going good. You know, we've been getting a lot of clients right now. You know, we're focusing a lot into Shopify development, Shopify app development, Shopify theme development. So again, you know, this is a shameless plug. If you never heard of what we do here at CodingPhase.com, you can go check out my website, CodingPhase.com, or subscribe to the channel. Just get to know the community, come in, show love, you know what I mean? And just learn from what's happening here. I like to share what's happening in my life so you can see it and use it as motivation. Same way how Chris Sean does his vlogs. Unfortunately, I don't got time to do no vlogs, but I share it on the live stream. I'll let you guys know. But definitely, man, I'm just excited that we had this amazing live stream. And yes, we will be doing another one pretty soon, maybe every 2 weeks, maybe once a month. So if you really enjoy this panel of developers, also go check it out on the Spotify. So just search CodingPhase, and you're gonna see this as a podcast too. All right, guys. So definitely, man, everybody, thank you for being here, coming through and making it on time. It's a Sunday. It's hard to do. For the next one, don't worry, we're gonna do it like at 8 o'clock at night, so like that everybody can have some time off. Okay, guys. So thanks everybody, man. Anything you guys want to say, anything you guys want to plug, go ahead, put it in there.
The writers need to step it up, man. I'm watching the writers game. They need to get it.
Happy Sunday, everybody.
Yeah, happy Sunday, everyone.
Only thing I would plug is FreeCodeCamp.org, and if you haven't, check out my YouTube channel or me on Twitter.
Yeah. Any plug? Check out Chau Code's YouTube channel. Go check him out. Go check out your boy Chris Sean. You already know he has a crazy lifestyle out here, you know. So definitely go follow him. You're gonna learn a lot from him. Definitely go check out my boy Jeremiah. He's right here. He's an up and coming YouTuber. I'm telling you guys right now, this is where I got my money at. You know what I'm saying? Like, this kid's a star. You know, his whole background and everything that he's about to start doing on YouTube, I'm telling you guys, is gonna be nothing but fire. So definitely go check him out, Jeremiah Peoples, man.
Appreciate that.
And another one is Dave Kimura, guys. If you guys haven't checked out the Ruby Rogues podcast, he's a panelist over there, man. He also has his own website. And go ahead, Dave, plug it in.
Yeah, driftingruby.com. It is short tutorials on Ruby programming, mostly Rails and Simulus.js. I've been doing it for over 300 episodes now or something. Jeez, I can't even remember. I think it's I don't even know how many episodes I've had. I've been doing it for so long it's hard to even keep track. 270 episodes. That's how many I have. So wow. It's been a journey, and subscribe to me on YouTube. Drifting Ruby is the handle there. Follow me on Twitter, Drifting Ruby, or come check out the videos I'm doing.
Yeah, by the way, I want to point out to anybody that's buying the brand new MacBook Pro, go check out Dave Kimura's tutorial on talking about the M1 chip and all of the things in there, because there's definitely some changes. So I will say go check it out on what he's doing over there. I learned a lot on that. So.
Yeah, and probably this time next year, I'll be doing a giveaway on a set of Apple computers. that will be given to the community. So be sure that you follow me on Twitter. Make sure that you follow me on YouTube, because that's where I'll be announcing that giveaway.
Nice.
Hey, it's me, your community. Hey, it's me, your community.
Yeah, man. So you already know, guys. Thank you for coming through. This has been a blast. We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of different topics. Again, for those of you guys that missed it or just got here late, we will be chopping this up into multiple videos so you guys can check it out. You know, it's like the JRE clips, you know what I mean? But it's the CP clips, you know what I mean? So definitely go check that out. All right, guys. So you already know it's your boy Joe, back at it again, CodingPhase.com. Go check out the website, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and show some love on the comment section. Okay, I'm going to see you guys later. Take care. Peace.